So I'm with Randy Frank, founder and developer of Natural Healing. We've just finished the emotional and the energetic seminar, so I just thought I'd grab this time to ask you a few questions. If we can start, first of all, with the foundation of Natural Healing. Where did the ideas come from? Well, the background behind it, what it was like, firstly growing up with your father, and the development of Natural Healing from TBA.
Oh, and you're expecting me to answer all that paragraph in a one-liner?
Yeah, about 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. The foundation of Natural Healing came out of TBM. Being raised with my father, being a man who was one of the dirty dozen that started applied kinesiology and developed his own work, obviously. He had a basic principle of, if you can figure out how to ask the question with muscle testing, you can get an answer. And once you've figured out how to get a weak muscle, you can figure out how to fix it. The biggest trick was the question. Some questions are dancing around. They're not getting to the point. The wording of the question, the intent of the question, is what's going to get you to the end result. My father told me after I was 40-something, the principal of the school in first grade would call him up and tell him to quit telling me to quit treating the kids in school. Flus, colds, allergies, anything. My father's answer was, did he fix them? Well, yeah, that's not the point. My dad went, oh yes it is. If he made them worse, then give me a call and I'll kick his butt. But as long as he's getting well, leave me the beep alone. Get lost. This was first grade. At my dinner table, I had some of the biggest names in chiropractic, some of the biggest names in the medical, sitting at my dinner table. And when they went and talked shop, if I was quiet, didn't say anything, and there was a third one I'd like. Sit down, shut up, and be quiet. Then I could sit with them and listen. Now, shut up and be quiet was two different things in my father's mind. Now, especially when we went to lunch, on the way home, I could ask as many questions as I wanted, as long as there wasn't another doctor in the room or in the car. Because he was not about to turn around and change their entire vocabulary of doing research on the newest and whatever they were playing with at the time to a 7, 8, 9, 13-year-old child who has never had anatomy. They were talking in full doctor lingo. And looking back, it probably was not school lingo, but it was definite doctor lingo. Pardon me. So, what my father did not understand was I understood most of what they were saying, and I could repeat it. I asked very few questions, but if it was something that bothered me, or I didn't understand, I would ask, and my father would explain it to me. And not explain it in terms that a 2-year-old would understand. He explained it in adult terms. So I have always been in the health field.
You've got mail.
I have never been able to turn around and not put my hands on people. My wife hates it when we go on vacation. She's also a doctor, and she wants to get away from seeing patients and go on vacation. The last vacation we took was about 10 days. I survived 5 days without touching anyone. And after that, we had the entire hotel staff on an all-inclusive, large 5-star resort coming over asking to be treated, which was fun for me, but not my wife.
Yeah.
She didn't like that, especially when she's really good at certain things. So I'd call her in to, hey, take a look at this, and oh, I got most of it. Would you look at this? Yeah, I got in all kinds of trouble for that one. Still do. But it's in my nature. It's where I am. My father found the individual keys, the individual buttons for the individual functions of the body.
Yeah.
And over the years, the sequence of buttons you had to push in order to get a result, because the people were no longer just a gallbladder, just a liver. We were now getting sequences, especially with the flus that came through in TBM, lymphatic flu. It was like 30 different moves to knock out the flu. Of course, it did it in about 2 minutes after you ran the 30-minute procedure. From running at both ends to let's go dinner and dancing.
Yeah.
Before they left the office. And we started getting sicker and sicker patients, or my father did. And so I started putting sequences together. I went and got most of my pre-med. I finally picked up my naturopathic and a few other degrees. But I didn't get any of my knowledge from the degrees I carried. Most of them are completely bogus. They're not worth a match to burn them on. But they're legal. That lets me touch people.
Okay.
And that's the part that's important.
Yeah.
My knowledge came from my father and who he hung out with. And as we started getting more and more complicated techniques, more manual, I developed a technique that I can put that manual into a individual vial to be able to run automatically. And what would take a person 1,000 hours to run, the body can run it in 1/10 of a second. So we can now treat far more incurable problems that we routinely have a long line of doctors that have seen the patient before we have and have gotten nowhere.
Yeah.
And we're moving forward.
Right.
Some are instantaneous, some are a little longer. I'm always working on whatever the newest thing's coming down the road, trying to keep up to date. We've got well over 500,000 different flus, and I love the flu vaccine. And they really love me because I'll go in and I'll ask them, so which flu are you vaccinating for? There's only 500,000 flus. Which one? Last week I saw over 100 different flus. And they have one flu shot?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's usually influenza, which I haven't seen in years.
Okay.
But it'll give you influenza. Just look at their numbers. But that's where natural healing came in. That's where it's based on my father's work, but it is more complicated, and I've made it extremely simple.
Okay. A couple of things to go back to what you mentioned before. You said about the founding with your father, Vic, and Vic coined the term, the functional physiology. How does that fit in? But what's your take on that? How does that fit into natural healing?
Absolutely.
What are you trying to...
Their functional physiology, as everything in natural healing is exactly what my father pictured how the body works. Because he had to stay within the TBM parameters, as he told me frequently. or he couldn't teach it.
Yeah.
That was the limit he could go. But greatly appreciated what I do and the work that I can carry on farther. It was the next evolution of TBM, was what my father was saying. And we taught together for many years. And some of our greatest fun was needling each other on who had a technique that was better for some condition. One of the ones I always loved was 16.6 sugar technique. And it's an hour-and-a-half procedure. It takes 3 people to run. And I have a vial. Mine was extremely simple. Set it on the chest, fix, optimize, and call it done. Give them 3 to 5 minutes to get a little buzz and hand them orange juice.
Okay.
So while we were setting up to teach and workshop the 16.6 sugar technique, I'd reach in because I knew it was coming up, so I'd have it in my pocket. I'd just wiggle it in Daddy's face. He goes, not here. Oh, but I can use it to find out who we're going to use as a victim.
Yeah.
And it saved a lot of time running through half the procedure to find out they didn't need it in the course. But at the same time, he would do it to me as well. Your vial didn't want it. It wanted my technique. And it was a blast. We'd have a smile from ear to ear the worst it got. We didn't care if the class liked it. We were having fun. If the class was smart, they would listen to the banter that was going back and forth and learn.
Yes.
Because we were both correct in our field. We were arguing over which procedure to use that was proper for the patient. Not that the procedures were wrong, just which order and which was very microscopically precise for that individual body. Luckily, my wife and I do the same thing. It's like arguing with my father. A lot of times, it's fun.
With the natural healing, I've used a lot of TBM, and I always think of it as like the alphabet. Each body point that taught was a letter, and how you put them together creates the different words, and that becomes the sequence that you correct. With natural healing, you seem to have taken those sequences a step further into a program. How did you get that into the vial? Because most of your treatments are sort of vial based.
Most of them are. The vials are electromagnetically coded with quantum physics and biochemical programming, so that they work like a CD to the body, the vials work to the body like a CD works to your computer, and it will read the data. Ask with muscle testing, do you have a program like this, and is it running?
Yeah.
If it's not running, the arm will go weak. And then hitting optimize, correcting it, will put that specific program back online. Whether it's general throughout the entire body or specific to an isolated location, depending on what it is you're using it for.
Yeah. So it's natural healing is a natural extension to TBM, and you've taken it a lot further. You've compacted a lot more.
I'm lazy.
Yeah.
More lazy than my father. He only claimed lazy. I got the vials to do it.
But you were saying that the good thing is the majority of the time it's natural healing is all you'll need to use. It will work sort of like 90% or so of the time, and then you can always fall back on the other.
I intermix them. When it comes to a patient, what do they need? Is it a software issue? Is it structural? Is it an isolated organ? Because I am the founder of Natural Healing, I'm going to attract more natural healing cases, of course. But even in those, you watch me work on somebody, I'm doing vials, I'm doing adjusting, I'm doing TBM, Reiki, NET, SOT, and a trillion other things that I know, or, okay, this needs to be moved this way, I'm in the wrong position to do from the book. So how am I going to get my hand into that position with enough force that I can actually move it in the location I'm at?
That's the good thing about both systems, particularly your system as well, the fact that it's an adjunct to what people have learned already. It doesn't replace any of their other techniques, and you can use it side by side. You can see which one the body needs first, and incorporate it. Or
same thing with total body modification.
Yeah.
It's an adjunct. It was never meant to be the all-inclusive. If that was needed, TBM had, before a technique was ever taught, they had a minimum of 500 cases without one failure. After 30, 40 years of teaching, he's got well over 1 million cases, by the time he died, of without one failure. And there has been several techniques that it failed, and they were yanked. If they had a substantial number of success, they got put on the back burner until we could figure out what it was really doing.
Right.
And then it came in as whatever the new thing we found, because it wasn't precise. And when you're dealing with individual functions, that's very easy to do. Although I hadn't seen anyone else be as accurate as TBM and consistent for 30, 40 years, as consistent as it was the day it started. Natural healing, because we're dealing with systems, not individual organs. And every person has a very unique system wiring. So where we can go after an isolated issue, it's still, we're affecting the entire system. And there are so many facets to the system that even today we don't know, we don't understand. The medical model hasn't a clue that it even exists. They're still measuring voltage across the network line. They have no idea it's got software. And I'm dealing with the software in the body. So I can't claim any more than 90%. Now, those that practice natural healing, use it a lot, we all claim a lot higher than that. But I like a little cushion.
Right. Yeah.
Just to be safe, because the moment I start claiming the numbers that I get, numbers that other doctors are getting, I'm going to get somebody that's come in and they're getting 10 out of 10 that didn't work. Or 10 out of 100. Then going, you're wrong. Nah, I'm just not going to play it. There's too many facets. We cover all the bases. And it's not necessarily that it didn't work, but there were more pieces to the puzzle that the individual doctor didn't see. The technique, before I teach it, they cover it. They cover every possible angle we can come up with, and it works well. But when you're dealing with a large group population, for instance, you can get the herd to move where you want it to move and do what you want. But once in a while, you get that one oddball person that just doesn't want to follow the rules. And that's where all the other techniques come into play. Because once I've got the herd moving as a group, I can spot the one that was actually the troublemaker that has started it all. And then we can use whatever technique we need to convince that one member to join the herd.
Yeah, okay. With the technique itself, there's the basic system, then you've got the energetic, and then you've got the emotional seminars. Can you explain, firstly, a little bit about each of those and what each one covers? And secondly, with the vials themselves, is there any way that they can, once you've taken a seminar, you don't have to keep taking another seminar to get new vials, you know, it's not going to be something like that, or can you explain a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, the basic seminar is going to give you the basics to start understanding how natural healing works, and enough workshop that when you get back to the office, you can start writing with first visit protocols and migrate from there. I'm not going to give you all of the details of what each individual technique can do. I'm going to give you the main principles, the main thing they work on. And in that technique, I've taken all the different groups of techniques that I've been teaching for 17 years. And these were the ones that had the all-inclusive, paralyzed will for all the emotions, BOSS, natural healing for first aid, for everything. Learning technique because of learning issues and learning how to heal. Think that might be useful?
Yeah, yeah.
That if they knew how to heal it, why would they be in your office? So learning is useful. Obviously they forgot. So it refreshes a lot, and it covers some of the main things that are going on. Biological with a line for the 500,000 different flus. Common integument for dealing with any kind of digestive trouble. There's not a lot of techniques in it because I want everyone to understand it, use it, and not be overwhelmed. So that when they get back, they can use it. Usually we teach the basic, and then I wait 5 days to teach any of the other sections.
Okay.
The emotions, that right now is one of the biggest sections at the moment. And we're covering just about every kind of emotion you can think of, and we've treated just about every kind of emotion out there with good success, life-changing. I had one mother, she had a Down syndrome child, and her entire world was nursemaid and caretaker of this Down syndrome child. Now, she came to me for her son. Real nice gal. But it was her son that she was coming to me for because she heard I could help. And done great work with him. But I found that through a few of the treatments that that's all she was a caretaker. So we started working on her. And she's now working. She's a mom. She was a daughter. She's also a wife, also a girlfriend. And now she is juggling all of these hats at the same time. And her entire life has changed. And her family. They're ecstatic. Said, yeah, the emotional section has got a lot of life-changing for the benefit.
That's the term I was going to use, life-changing. It's different to your normal sort of headaches and backaches and neck aches that most people that are looking to treat.
Yeah, natural healing isn't for that. If you're trying to be just a neck and back cracker, don't waste your time with natural healing. It won't fulfill your goal. But if you're actually looking to fix people and get them healthy on a long-term basis, then natural healing, TBM, even ESM, environmental stress management, which my sister still runs, that would be where you want to go. Get from the core that from TBM, there's 2, 3, 4 dozen techniques that have come out of it. He was the start.
Yeah.
And from there, they've developed their own work. Some credible, some not. but they had a base of the TBM principles and body points. So, and now, if you really want to learn the principles and function of TBM from someone who was born and raised with it, take ESM. That's my sister Lori, or Lorraine. And because she still has those principles and foundation. That's where she builds it, and she's using body points. From there, then by all means take TBM. Learn the body points, learn the corrections. The person that owns it right now, I have no idea what he's doing with it or where he's going with it. So any of the references I have are when my father was alive and ran the company, because then I knew what it was. I've stayed out of touch, I've got my own work. Natural healing is also built on the TBM principles and foundation. But it's far more hidden, but it's at the core.
Right.
Where ESM will give you parts of the core and understand more of the principle.
Okay. And the final system before I interrupted was the energy part of natural healing.
Yeah, yes. You have to heal the body at the mind, body, and soul as one. Those that were into the energies or are into it, I've had many, many requests to put one on. I have spent my whole life using scientific terminology to hide any kind of energetic interaction. And times have changed, but that was the way I was raised. It doesn't matter what you can do. If you can't explain it with science, shut up. Don't say it. They'll think you're as loony as most of them. And then you have no credibility anywhere, whether doctoring or not, no matter how many degrees you have. 70s, 60s even, that was the standard. 80s, it started changing a little bit, but not much. Today, I got enough pressure to put one on, so I've set one up. We've got a lot of scientific techniques in it. We also have many energetic techniques and workshops and training.
Okay.
To show you how to survive healing a large number of patients and not get your energy drained, not get sapped. Oh, they stole my energy. I've given too much. How to be able to deal with it, how to keep that from happening, and how to heal with more precision than you ever thought possible.
So the techniques themselves, they isn't, draining. It's not physical. It's not sort of demanding. It opens up, countless endless possibilities. So that in itself is a practice builder. So really, the energy system, the energy seminar is going to be good for both practitioner and the recipient, the patient themselves.
Yeah.
Okay.
All of natural healing can be done without any conscious forethought or with conscious forethought. It works both ways. Because you can turn around and use a menu on the vials to find out which vial is first and not have any conscious thought of what you're going after, no thinking involved, and the vials will create what they need according to the patient that's being treated. Or you can still pretty much do the same procedure, but look for the story that the vials are telling you. You were talking about the TBM with the body points, creating the story. The vials do the same thing. why would this vial come before that vial? What are they working on? What was the target they were going after? Whether you targeted it or the vials targeted themselves. And read the story. Learn what they truly can do. That, even in the most advanced courses I taught, I still give you a fraction. I give you about a bucket of snow to the entire North Pole of what it could do.
Okay.
Because I'm not going to make you a cook. You are not going to get a cookbook technique out of me. You could not get a cookbook out of my father. You're not getting one out of me. I will show you how to become a chef. Show you how to become a musician. Not someone who can play chords. Any robot can do that. But to be able to add your own creativity, to be able to flow, to be able to manipulate it according to what the patient needs to the highest benefit.
Okay.
And that takes experience and paying attention and discovery.
Hopefully most of the discoveries on your part, and you're going to pass it on to us with very little effort, because I'm lazy.
The work I have,
Right.
the effort that goes into creating these, the precision, is extremely detailed. It's just never shown.
Okay.
Because I've got a research team that we go after. I've got sources in various fields. But if I don't know something, and I'm not the all-inclusive knowing, I've got banks and banks of people that are experts in their field. Well, I go and snag their information, add it to the piece I don't understand that I know I need, mix that in with what I've got, go to the next one. Or we all get together and we all put it in the pot and stir it up.
Okay.
Oh, well, we got stew, but wait a minute, I need more potatoes, I need more meat. Okay, we need a little salt, a little pepper. And by the time we get done, we've got a beautiful meal. But it's built on not just my shoulders. There's a lot of people that help, whether minimal or a lot.
Okay.
In the workbook, you'll also see their names. The people that the majority of the work was done, or a good portion of it, I worked very hard at putting their names in the workbook.
As far as I can see from the books, the workbooks that I've read, you've always credited the people that you've either got the techniques from or you've worked alongside with to develop them, and that's the good thing that I like about it. That's...
Well, it was there for two reasons. Primary, I figure one day my memory's going to go. So I'd forget who did it. Because even my father, who had a phenomenal memory, he remembered till the day he died who did what technique.
Yeah.
And he could recite it. The problem was all of his the instructors did not have the memory, and it was written down nowhere, except in my father's mind. Well, I've never trusted my memory. It's very good, but I never trust it. So I've always written down the names, and I try to give credit where credit's due. Periodically I get caught, I forgot to put somebody on there, and they noticed. I go, hey, no problem, shoot me an
But
email.
then it gets updated.
The next
so
workbook, it's on there.
Yeah, no, that's what I like about that.
I've also had a few people try to take credit for it. And I went, no. I'm honest about it. Just because you shoot me an email and claim that you helped out on that. If it wasn't substantial, then...
New message from Dr.
Yeah.
Anita D. Class, T.C.
then it was not put in.
Right.
So there's a bar that I have for my own need that if they've helped out substantially, they get their name on there. If it's all their technique, added in a minor little tweak, I'll leave my name on. If I had to modify it substantially, then my name will be on it.
Okay.
But I try to keep it, the credit where the credit's due. And of course, the order of the names is irrelevant. It is not set by priority. It's however I typed it.
Yeah. Okay. The technique looks incredibly simple, as I said before. It's basically the vial on the body, and then you make the one move correction that will fix it. Can you give us a little detail? I know you shouldn't have a favourite technique. I suppose like children, you've got to love them all the same. But if you were to pick sort of one technique, could you sort of break down that vial a little bit in greater detail to just show us how much sort of complex the work is, because it does sound a bit simplistic, put it on the bottom. Can you show, some of the detail?
How would I show 10,000 hours worth of work?
You could describe the spectrum of things that a specific one, a specific vial is capable of, covering.
Okay. Natural healing or first aid,
Right.
which in the basic you get to one's for your case that's serious, and then you get one that you carry with you everywhere. Whether it's in your purse or your pocket, for treating anybody and everybody.
Okay.
And for quite a while I was flying back and forth from Europe to the States to Europe. And somewhere in the long flight, I would end up in the back of the plane, stretching my legs, talking with the stewardesses. And I'd be treating everything from coffee allergies to low back to ankles that hurt, colds, flus, you name it. And it was instantly gone. That fast. With the natural healing technique. Because it's going through and optimizing the entire neurological network. The actual individual pieces, you'd have to be a biochemist to truly understand it, and electromagnetic engineer to understand circuitry and data streams. They are very complicated. The first technique I ever developed was learning technique, and that was 10 pages of technique that we did manually. And we were going clear down to the adenine triphosphates, your ATP, ADP, Krebs cycles, phosphokinase cycles, different metabolisms, down to the very elemental basics of the body that had to be very specifically designed to deal with. It's where we found there was malfunctions.
Okay. When you say that the treatment and the results are instantaneous, if someone that's using your technique isn't getting those results, is it something about you that's special? Is it something about them that's not so special, that they're doing wrong? Are there any other factors that they should be looking towards that they may have missed or overlooked?
In my office, I don't get that kind of results. Darn it. Wish I did. I'm working on it. I want it. I get those instantaneous results when I'm out and about.
Okay.
Because all I'm doing is a Band-Aid. If it's something major, no, I'm sorry. It's like putting a Band-Aid on an arm cut off. If you just have a big gash, you could use butterfly Band-Aids that hold the skin together, and it might stop bleeding. And it may be all you need. What I call first aid, is a natural healing technique that you carry with you. I nickname it first aid. It doesn't say it on there. It just says natural healing. I just use it as a first aid.
Okay.
When people come up to me or we get talking and, oh, let me take a look at it. Let's see. I don't know if I can help. I don't know if I can't. I don't know their system. Never touched them before. I know they're not doing any requirements of health. They're living a normal life and normal food, whatever that is to them. And I'm not asking them to change. And if it doesn't work, okay, it's more serious. I'm going to hand them my card anyway, even if it does work. But I'll give it a try. I don't know if it'll help. Let's see. Because I have nothing invested in it except I'm trying. The cases I tend to get when I'm out and about playing around, I get dramatic results. Do I always get it? No. Do I always get some improvement? Yeah. And I do get a lot of referrals from it. Even the stewardesses on planes, they have passengers. And they have a few cards. I've gotten a few referrals from especially the business class, because they are flying back and forth everywhere. They have no problem flying to me to get work done for whatever problem they have.
Business class will be ideal because with the technique, because you're doing something different that nobody else is, you'll be able to charge a fee that nobody else is as well. So that's a better class of patient to go. Well,
They can afford my fee.
That's the type.
Well, even the ones in the back, but they're not flying as often usually.
Yeah.
And so they're not talking to the stewardess. They don't know the passenger as much.
Yeah.
When I was flying every month back and forth, yeah, I got to know the stewardesses. I didn't fly business, I'd fly coach till I got points that I could upgrade.
You was always at the back chatting to them anyway, so
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
It was either the back or the front, whichever I could squeeze into. But yeah, I'm at a restaurant. Now, if you want an extreme case of what natural healing can do, I was sitting in Washington State over in Seattle, and Dad and I were teaching, and we just got through for the afternoon. So I went with one of the other doctors to the Underground City tour, where Seattle was actually built on top of Seattle. And so we're sitting there waiting for our tour to start, and here's this Skid Row bum doing Tai Chi. I steer away from Skid Row bums. I really don't want anything to do with them. They're smelly, they're rude, they're usually drunk. Just not my kind of people.
Yeah.
Not being snobbish. They're enjoying their world, and I don't need to get involved in it if I don't need to. But this guy doing Tai Chi just got my curiosity. That just doesn't match. So I ended up started talking to him. Found out in 2 weeks he was due to have a hip replacement. And he was doing Tai Chi just to keep the hip from really killing him. He lived in constant pain. Had for a long time. And I went, okay, let's see. Yeah, give me an arm. Huh? Shut up. Give me an arm. And I ran first aid. And then I ran it over his hip, and ran it over his other hip. Because one hip's bad, the other one's right behind it. So, got a 60-40 issue. 60 screaming so loud you can't hear the 40. Until you fix the 60, then the 40 screaming. So, worked on both. And then the tour started. I said, the pain's down. Okay, good. Well, we'll be back in about an hour or so, whenever the tour's over. I'll check on you. And we went on our tour. I came back from the tour, and this guy was doing Tai Chi fast. Where before he was jerky and wincing every time he had to move that hip. And so we called him over, talked to him a little more, and yeah, pain-free. Feels great. I hadn't felt this good in a long time. I said, okay. And I had the doctor who was local with me, or the doctor who was with me was local.
Yeah.
So she pulled out a card, a couple of them gave it to him, and he came in and saw her the next week, and saw her 2 or 3 times after that. He never had the hip surgery, never needed replacing. One move, or one visit, and probably 3, 4 moves. What can we fix? Anything. Can we do it instantly? We're working on it. Sometimes we can't.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the exact move that body needed to get that instantaneous relief or correction. Sometimes we've got to bust our tail to get it. In my office, I bust my tail.
The right thing done to the right body at the right time.
Exactly. If they're in the office, it may not be the right time. That doesn't mean you don't treat them. That means you got to work harder, or it's more in depth. But when you're out and about, coincidence puts them in your way at the right time, at the right place, or you would never have seen them. Even if it's a restaurant you go to every single day, that same waitress, she had caught a flu, a cold, but she had to go to work. And she worked at the right time that you're there, so you can fix it.
Okay. How often do you teach the courses? I know at the moment you're taking sabbatical because you need to do a couple of other things, even though you're still developing the system. How often do you teach? Is it Europe-based, or is it States, or will you go wherever you wanted, or how does it work? How can people get you?
Right now, I'm looking at teaching once a year in the States, once a year here. Next year, we're looking at June over in Vail, Colorado. Right now I've got personal stuff that I want to deal with. I've got family I want to enjoy. I'm also in private practice. So I've got a lot on my plate. Years ago I was single, nothing, all I did was teach, and I taught every month somewhere in the world. Now, I enjoy my family. So, yeah, I teach here in Germany. Where we just got through teaching the 3 set. And I'll teach in the States. If there's enough people and I have time, then we can put on more seminars. But it depends on what's going on at the time, at this point. Do I plan on doing more frequent seminars in the future? More than likely, I know me. The work's too powerful to let it stay off to the side. But yeah, ever since my father died, it's kind of changed my priorities a little bit.
Yeah.
It hasn't kicked me out of the seminars, and it's not that type of thing. It's just reshifted my priorities a little bit.
How often do you think people should, it's like asking, a travel agent if you need a holiday, but how often do you think, exactly, how often do you think people should do the seminars? Because there are these constant updates going on all the time. Are they getting naturally incorporated into the system where the files, sort of update themselves, or do the new pieces get added to the seminar once a year, or how does that work? How often, would you suggest that
the
people...
files are being updated on a constant basis.
Right.
As soon as I find the technique is valuable, safe, bulletproof, so that even if it's misused, it's still going to work without any harm, then we will plug it into whichever technique it is we're playing with. So they're being, and I'm constantly working on a dozen techniques at least in the office. Plus I've got a lot more in my head that I'm still working on parts. So it's not uncommon, the files are being updated every week.
Right.
So you open your case, whatever you're storing them in, leave it open for 5 minutes, and you get whatever's current. So that part. As far as how many seminars you want to take, how many lessons does it take to become a concert musician? Even though it is the same lesson repeatedly, do you actually hear it the same?
Usually not, because I'm usually writing something down and I miss the next 3 sentences, so I'm always finding something new.
Right. Like I said, I'm not teaching cookbook. I'm teaching how to be a chef. So you're only hearing what you're ready to hear at that particular moment. I have had people take 6 seminars in a row, and I was teaching every month or twice a month sometimes. And it was the same seminar. And they said each one of them was like a brand new seminar. You know, they didn't get files, but they got a new workbook. It was the same material. The workbooks are printed just before the seminar, the majority of the time, so that they have the most corrected information and less typos than the last one, I hope. I do work hard on it, but because there's always a typo, I reprint. When I quit finding typos, I might start printing ahead of time.
There's a couple of typos, but the manual's good. Manual is solid paper. It's incredible. It's worth getting it just for the new workbook. You know, that's just a plug. Just to make it clear as well that the vials will automatically update themselves. You know, people don't have to keep rushing out and buying the latest set unless it's.
No, the original Natural Healing was updated annually.
Right.
Because we're always playing, and we're always upgrading. And I had no way of automatically updating the vials. And we were changing procedures at the same time. Everything was changing. And it was a completely different technique in day one versus what it was the next year. The vials worked different, processed different. We had new technology, new techniques, new knowledge base. And here, was it 2 years ago now when we broke it after years of my team nagging me to break it up. I liked it all being one seminar and done. But after 125, 45 techniques, somewhere around there, no one came out of it conscious. They were all brain dead. Which baffled me because, what? This is common sense. How else would it work? And then I had to agree that, oh yeah, they don't have my background. They don't have what I learned as a core foundational. Well, yeah, how else would it work? They don't have my father's education, educating me all the way through childhood. So, having to acknowledge that what I called the most simplest thing was a miracle. But, huh? Well, okay. But to everyone else, they've never seen it before, never thought of it. And when you've got 120, 140 techniques like that, you come out of it pretty brain dead. So I conceded to break it up. And we've broken it up into smaller sections, and the smallest one is definitely the basic. Because once you get your head wrapped around what it actually does, and start using it in the office, understanding the basics and some of the learning that is accrued with running it, then everything else we can run the same, or run a lot bigger tick.
Yeah.
More information through you because now you're accustomed to it. Procedures are the same, for the most part. It's just what you apply it on, how to apply it. That's the only real difference between them.
Okay. So the final thing for now is that really with the vials, they're created in such a way to run it and basically expect miracles. They could do anything.
I demand miracles. I'll concede when I ran out of steps that I can take. If you shoot for the clouds, how far are you going to get? If you got to the top of the mountain, you're doing good, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
If you shoot for 12 galaxies out, you still complain at going to the moon. Who goes farther?
Yeah. And if you don't try.
Okay. The only thing natural healing can't do is anything you haven't tried. There's a line in one of my workbooks that today I may not know how to fix what you have, but tomorrow's a new day with new information.
And on that note, I thank you. We'll finish it there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.